Here are 100 words related to the health sector, along with their explanations and example sentences. Hospital, a place where patients receive medical treatment and care. Example, she was rushed to the hospital after the accident. Doctor, a licensed medical professional who diagnoses and treats illnesses and injuries. Example, the doctor prescribed antibiotics for her infection. Nurse, a healthcare professional who provides care and support to patients. Example, the nurse checked the patient's blood pressure. Patient, a person receiving medical treatment or care. Example, the patient complained of chest pain. Treatment, medical care provided to improve a patient's health. Example, the treatment for the disease includes medication and physical therapy. Medication, drugs or medicines used to treat illnesses or symptoms. Example, she takes medication to control her blood pressure. Surgery, medical treatment involving incisions to repair or remove a part of the body. Example, the surgery was successful and the patient is recovering well. Diagnosis, the identification of a disease or condition based on symptoms and tests. Example, the doctor made a diagnosis of pneumonia. Symptom, a sign of illness or disease experienced by a patient. Example, coughing and fever are common symptoms of the flu. Healthcare, the maintenance or improvement of health through medical services. Example, access to healthcare is essential for all individuals. Emergency, a sudden and serious situation requiring immediate action. Example, the hospital has an emergency department for critical cases. Ambulance, a vehicle equipped for transporting sick or injured people. Example, the ambulance arrived quickly to take the patient to the hospital. Emergency room, ER. The department in a hospital where patients receive immediate medical treatment. Example, he was rushed to the ER after collapsing at home. Ward, a section of a hospital for patients requiring a similar level of care. Example, the pediatric ward is for children under 18 years old. Clinic, a facility where patients receive medical care, often on an outpatient basis. Example, she visits the clinic regularly for checkups. Rehabilitation, the process of restoring health or abilities through therapy and education. Example, he underwent rehabilitation after the accident to regain mobility. Therapy, treatment intended to relieve or heal a disorder. Example, she attends physical therapy to strengthen her muscles. Physician, another term for a doctor or medical practitioner. Example, the physician specializes in cardiology. Pediatrician, a doctor who specializes in the care of children. Example, the pediatrician examined the baby at her first checkup. Obstetrician, a doctor who specializes in pregnancy, childbirth, and women's reproductive health. Example, she consulted an obstetrician during her pregnancy. Gynecologist, a doctor who specializes in women's reproductive health. Example, the gynecologist performed a routine examination. Surgeon, a doctor who specializes in performing surgery. Example, the surgeon operated on her knee to repair the ligament. Anesthesiologist, a doctor who specializes in administering anesthesia during surgery. Example, the anesthesiologist monitored her during the operation. Pharmacist, a healthcare professional who dispenses medications and provides information about them. Example, the pharmacist explained how to take the medication. Prescription, a written order from a doctor for a specific medication. Example, she picked up her prescription from the pharmacy. Health insurance, a type of insurance coverage that pays for medical expenses. Example, she has health insurance through her employer. Primary care. Basic health care provided by a doctor or nurse practitioner. Example, she sees her primary care physician for regular checkups. Specialist. A doctor who focuses on a specific area of medicine. Example, the cardiologist is a specialist in heart health. Dentist. A healthcare professional who specializes in oral health. Example, she visits the dentist twice a year for checkups. Hygiene. Practices that promote health and prevent disease, such as washing hands and brushing teeth. Example, good hygiene helps prevent the spread of infections. Infection. The invasion of the body by harmful microorganisms. Example, he developed an infection after a cut on his hand. Contagious. Able to be passed from one person to another through contact. Example, the flu is highly contagious and spreads easily. Vaccine. A substance that stimulates the immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease. Example, she received a vaccine to protect against the flu. Immunization. The process of becoming immune to a disease through vaccination. Example, immunization has helped control the spread of many diseases. Epidemic. A widespread occurrence of an infectious disease in a community. Example, the flu epidemic led to many hospitalizations. Pandemic. An epidemic that spreads over a large area or globally. Example, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected countries around the world. Quarantine. Isolation to prevent the spread of infectious disease. Example, the patient was placed in quarantine to prevent others from getting sick. Isolation. Separation of sick people from those who are not sick. Example, the hospital has an isolation ward for patients with contagious diseases. Hydration. The process of providing fluids to the body. Example, it's important to maintain hydration during hot weather. Nutrition. The process of providing or obtaining the food necessary for health and growth. Example, a balanced diet is essential for good nutrition. Exercise. Physical activity that improves health and fitness. Example, she goes for a run every morning to get exercise. Wellness. The state of being in good health, especially as an actively pursued goal. Example, yoga and meditation are part of her wellness routine. Mental health. The state of well-being in which an individual realizes their own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and is able to make a contribution to their community. Example, it's important to prioritize mental health and seek help if needed. Stress. A state of mental or emotional strain resulting from demanding circumstances. Example, yoga and meditation can help reduce stress levels. Depression. A mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Example, she sought treatment for depression and is feeling better now. Anxiety. A feeling of worry, nervousness or unease about something with an uncertain outcome. Example, he has anxiety about flying and prefers not to travel by plane. Addiction. The fact or condition of being addicted to a particular substance, thing or activity. Example, he sought help for his addiction to alcohol. Recovery. The process of regaining health after illness or injury. Example, she is in recovery after surgery and is making good progress. Hospice. A program that provides care for terminally ill patients. Example, the hospice provides compassionate care for patients in their final days. Palliative care. Care that focuses on relieving pain and suffering for patients with serious illnesses. Example, the patient received palliative care to improve her quality of life. Home care. Medical care provided in a patient's home. Example, the nurse visits regularly to provide home care for the elderly patient. Caregiver, a person who provides care for someone who is sick or disabled. Example, she is a caregiver for her elderly mother. Elderly care. Care provided to older adults to meet their physical and emotional needs. Example, the facility provides specialized elderly care services. Respite, care, short-term care provided to relieve a primary caregiver. Example, the respite care program allows caregivers to take a break. Dementia, a decline in cognitive function due to damage or disease in the brain. Example, he was diagnosed with dementia and requires specialized care. Alzheimer's disease, a progressive disease that destroys memory and other important mental functions. Example, she has Alzheimer's disease and lives in a memory care facility. Disability, a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. Example, the organization provides support for people with disabilities. Rehabilitation center, a facility that provides therapy and support to help people recover from injuries or illnesses. Example, he underwent physical therapy at the rehabilitation center. Physical therapy, treatment to restore movement and function to people disabled by disease or injury. Example, she attends physical therapy to regain strength in her leg after surgery. Occupational therapy, therapy to help people participate in the activities of daily life. Example, the occupational therapist taught him techniques to improve his independence. Speech therapy, therapy to improve speech and language skills. Example, the speech therapist worked with the child to improve her communication skills. Medical record, a document containing information about a patient's health history and care. Example, the doctor reviewed the patient's medical records before the appointment. Health history, information about a person's past illnesses, injuries, and treatments. Example, the nurse asked about the patient's health history during the intake interview. Telemedicine, the remote diagnosis and treatment of patients using telecommunications technology. Example, she had a telemedicine appointment with her doctor over video chat. Electronic health record, EHR, digital versions of a patient's paper chart containing all health information. Example, the hospital uses an electronic health record system to store patient information. Health information technology, HIT, technology used to manage health information and healthcare processes. Example, the hospital implemented health information technology to improve patient care. Medical equipment, tools and devices used in healthcare settings to diagnose, treat, or monitor patients. Example, the nurse used a stethoscope to listen to the patient's heart. Wheelchair, a chair with wheels used by people who have difficulty walking. Example, the patient uses a wheelchair to move around the house. Crutches, devices used to support someone's weight when walking due to injury or disability. Example, he used crutches after breaking his leg. Prosthesis, an artificial body part, such as a limb, used to replace a missing part. Example, the patient was fitted for a prosthesis after losing his leg in an accident. Diagnostic test, a test used to identify a disease or condition. Example, she underwent a diagnostic test to determine the cause of her symptoms. X-ray, a type of imaging test that uses radiation to produce images of the inside of the body. Example, the doctor ordered an X-ray to check for broken bones. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, a type of imaging test that uses magnetic fields to produce detailed images of the body's organs and structures. Example, he had an MRI to examine his brain for any abnormalities. CT scan, computed tomography, a type of imaging test that uses X-rays to create detailed cross-sectional images of the body. Example, the CT scan revealed a tumor in her abdomen. Ultrasound, a type of imaging test that uses sound waves to create images of the inside of the body. Example, she had an ultrasound to monitor the growth of her baby during pregnancy. Blood pressure, the force of blood against the walls of the arteries. Example, the nurse took his blood pressure before the doctor's appointment. Heart rate, the number of times the heart beats per minute. Example, the doctor measured her heart rate during the physical exam. Pulse, the rhythmic throbbing of the arteries as blood is propelled through them. Example, the nurse checked the patient's pulse to assess his circulation. Temperature, the degree of hotness or coldness of a body or environment. Example, she had a high temperature and was advised to rest. Respiration, the act of breathing. Example, the nurse counted his respirations to assess his breathing rate. Syringe, a device used to inject or withdraw fluids from the body. Example, the nurse used a syringe to administer the medication. IV intravenous. Therapy, the delivery of fluids, medications, or nutrients directly into a vein. Example, he received IV therapy to rehydrate him after surgery. Catheter, a thin tube inserted into the body to drain fluids or administer medications. Example, the nurse inserted a urinary catheter to drain the patient's bladder. Oxygen, a gas essential for life that is inhaled from the air. Example, the patient received oxygen therapy to help him breathe. Intensive care unit, ICU, a specialized unit in a hospital for critically ill patients. Example, the patient was transferred to the ICU for closer monitoring. Blood transfusion, the transfer of blood or blood components from one person to another. Example, the patient received a blood transfusion after losing a lot of blood. Pain management, the treatment of pain to improve quality of life. Example, the nurse administered pain medication to relieve her discomfort. Wound care, the treatment of wounds to promote healing and prevent infection. Example, the nurse cleaned and dressed the wound to prevent complications. Outpatient, a patient who receives medical treatment without being admitted to the hospital overnight. Example, he had an outpatient procedure and went home the same day. Outpatient, a patient who receives medical treatment without being admitted to the hospital overnight. Example, he had an outpatient procedure and went home the same day. Palliative care, specialized medical care for people with serious illnesses. Example, the hospice provides palliative care for patients with terminal illnesses. Hospice care, supportive care for people in the final stages of a terminal illness. Example, the patient received hospice care at home surrounded by loved ones. Home health care, medical and non-medical care provided in a person's home. Example, she received home health care after being discharged from the hospital. Assisted living, housing for elderly or disabled people that provides some assistance with daily activities. Example, he moved to an assisted living facility to receive help with meals and medication management. Nursing home, a facility that provides skilled nursing care for residents who require medical and personal care. Example, she moved to a nursing home after her health deteriorated. Long-term care. Care provided to people who are unable to care for themselves due to chronic illness or disability. Example, the facility provides long-term care for residents with Alzheimer's disease. Acute care, intensive medical treatment for a severe injury or illness. Example, he was admitted to acute care after a car accident. Chronic care, ongoing medical care for a long-term condition or illness. Example, she requires chronic care for her diabetes. Public health, the science and practice of protecting and improving the health of communities through education, promotion of healthy lifestyles, and disease prevention. Example, public health campaigns promote vaccination to prevent the spread of disease. Health promotion, the process of enabling people to increase control over and to improve their health. Example, the health promotion program encourages regular exercise and healthy eating habits. These examples demonstrate how these words are used in context within the healthcare sector.